Hi, it's Chris Titley here, and we're at 3:47 on day 2 of Intersekt. I'm joined by Piers from Banking Circle. Day 2, how you going, mate?
Thank you, Chris, for having me on the show, and really excited to be back in Melbourne. And end of day 2. It's been an amazing kind of show and conference for us. This is the 3rd time that we have supported Intersekt, so we've been the main sponsor for the last 3 years. We've also hosted the payments dinner for the last 3 years as well, and my observation is that it just gets bigger and bigger each year, and I think certainly it's grown from the original 2-day conference that it was, and it's almost like a whole of week.
Well,
conference
it's called the FinTech Week now.
Yeah,
it is the FinTech Week.
There is enough content for the week. I'm not sure if there's enough energy levels for the entire week. By the way,
I think there needs to be snoozes in between.
Well, there was Messina ice cream, so that's where I'm getting my sugar hit from at the moment.
And there's a good cake at afternoon tea. I'm using the test match analogy. It's 5 days now, and we're on day 4.
Right.
We're in the afternoon session of day 4. It's heating up now. The conversations you've had thus far, in person and dinners that you mentioned, do you want to talk about that and why you're so involved in Intersekt and why you think it's important?
Yeah, it's as I touched on, this has been the busiest year for us this year with Intersekt, and we've been a really proud partner of Fintech Australia over the last 3 years. And I mean, the context of that is that Banking Circle set up its operations in Sydney about 3 years ago. When we came into market, it was really important for us to align ourselves with an industry association to act as an introducer to the underlying member base. Working with fintechs, payments businesses, PSPs, acquirers, issuers, and so on, is exactly the type of customers that the Banking Circle supports in Europe. So we came into market. We've been working with Fintech Australia over the last few years. They've been really wonderful. They've made introductions to us. They've been supportive. And so it was a very easy decision for us to not just align and become a partner of Fintech Australia, but Intersekt as well. And as I say, year 3, this is the busiest. And I think much of it is to do with, certainly for the first 2 years, as we were setting everything up, we were scaling, and we didn't have a huge amount of product in market. This year is different, though. This is where the rubber hits the road.
2025 has been a big year for you, right? Do you want to describe to the listeners out there what 2025 has been for Banking Circle?
Yeah, it's a huge year. So we're really excited this year to recently announce the approval of Banking Circle's acquisition of an Australian bank called ASL, or Australian Settlements Limited. What that does is that now means that Banking Circle has a banking entity in Australia. And back to my earlier comment, it now means that we can provide much more in terms of solutions and capabilities and address a much larger addressable market for fintechs and the local target market here. So we are regarded as the bank for fintech in Europe, and we absolutely will be the bank for fintech in Australia as well. So the timing has been amazing. We got the regulatory approvals through only a few weeks ago, and hence the amount of conversations that we've had this year, the topic of those conversations in terms of what we can do, has been much, much broader this year.
That's fantastic. And in terms of the technology and where payments are in a cycle, fintech is at a cycle, how would you describe where we are now?
For payments, there is a lot going on. Think about the amount of changes that are going through at the moment. Just from the Australian perspective, you've got the proposed decommissioning of BECS by 2030. What does that mean for payments businesses and the banks who are on those systems? The switch from the BECS direct entry system over to MPP. Then we've got the newer kind of solutions like PayID and PayTo, and how do we increase the adoption and take up of that as well. And then the potential interlinking of domestic real-time payments with other countries as well. So there's an awful lot of going on in the Australian payments ecosystem. What that actually means is there's an awful lot of conversations to be able to have with banks, who then obviously provide payment solutions to their underlying customers and to their corporates and so on as well. Yeah.
And in terms of the buzzword AI, what's going on there?
mean, you can't go to a conference these days with
Or be on a podcast.
that's
AI.
right. So without AI coming up.
Is it like you've been to many Intersekts and you've supported many Intersekts? The themes that have covered around, I would say, 22 or 21, 22 was probably buy now, pay later. Then we had digital banks, and we had open banking and blockchain and digital currency, still very strong. What do you reckon about this year? What's the theme? Is there some sort of underlying conversation happening? Is it AI?
AI comes up a lot. Stablecoins come up a lot as well.
Okay, yeah.
But I still also think there's a couple of other themes that are continually there. The challenge of de-risking and the challenge that the payments industry, fintechs have to get access to banking continues to be a problem. And we can solve for that because we are a bank that specialises
Very
in
proudly
working.
a bank now.
Exactly.
Yeah,
That's
you can
great.
say it. How does it feel to say it?
Really nice. and so we play a really nice role into that. So, you know, we understand how to work with fintechs. We understand what are the measures are that you look for when you're working with fintechs, because it's very different. How you engage and look for when onboarding a fintech is very different to a lending customer, right? And so, but that's our area of speciality or core competencies as such. So the issue of kind of de-risking and the challenges of fintechs getting access to bank accounts continues. We feel that we can play a key role in enabling that. And just on the theme of enabling, like we see ourselves as an enabler in the sense of enabling fintechs to get access to bank accounts, enabling fintechs to get access to the payment schemes. And that could be the domestic payment scheme like NPP, for example. But it also, we enable Australian fintechs who have aspirations to go global to set up in overseas jurisdictions. So where we are a bank in those overseas jurisdictions, we can help them. And there's a number of Fintech Australia members who we were their catalyst to be able to take them overseas. And so from their point of view, they've already onboarded with us locally, they've already done the integration, they've already used to our technology, and then turning them on in another jurisdiction is a really nice and easy for us as well. So we can allow Australian fintechs to scale globally, which is a good news story. We also allow overseas payments businesses who are looking to set up in operations in Australia. So what do they look for? They're looking for a banking partner who can give them access to all the payment rails. So we are an enabler of fintechs to scale overseas, but also overseas fintechs coming in.
I was just going to touch on that European connection. It's very the importance of being global and having operations and understanding overseas markets. It's got to be critical for some people that thinking global, because that's where, you know, Australia's a kind of finite market. It's a good market, but then obviously overseas, you know, 10x, 20x.
Yeah. I mean, the Australian population of 26 million, which is highly banked and highly digital, and which is why it's very attractive for overseas businesses to come into Australia. But if you are a fintech in Australia and you have real aspirations to build out a significant business, then quite often they look overseas and to markets like the UK and the Eurozone as well too, because they've got access to a larger addressable market. But you're right. Banking Circle as an organisation is operates as a bank in the Eurozone, in the UK. It means we are working with fintechs in those jurisdictions, and often licensing and regulatory reforms can often start in the UK and the Eurozone, and then they trickle down to Australia a little bit later on. So if you think about things like confirmation of payee, verification of payee, they've been in the UK for a while, and then they come to Australia. So that gives us the ability to say, well, we know when we're dealing with the local fintech markets in those overseas jurisdictions, what do they need, what to look out for, and we can then take those learnings and experience and help the local market in Australia.
Speaking of learnings, you mentioned 4 years ago that you started the Australian operations, taking us back to that 4 years ago. Looking now as an organisation 4 years later, how are you feeling, and what describe the culture and what you're building here? So
we've done a lot in a very short period of time, and I mean, I don't think for 1 minute, if you said to me, right, when we started this 4 years ago, that in 4 years' time we would be operating as a bank I mean, I'm not sure if I would have agreed with that, but like here we are, and it's been an amazing journey. I've been very fortunate to have an amazing team around me. So from the leadership of Banking Circle overseas, who've put their faith in us building building a business in Australia. So they've spent time. They've come to Australia, come to Sydney, come to Melbourne many times. They've sat down with the local fintech community and the banks, and then they've really kind of moved at pace. So I feel very fortunate to have had that executive support. Locally, we've built a really wonderful team. So I've got a wonderful team around me, and so from a culture perspective, I couldn't have asked for anything better. I do feel lucky in that sense. They do work hard. They work long hours, late nights, and that's just a function of when you're building an Australian business that is part of a larger European parent. And we've built an amazing culture, but we also have an awesome customer base now as well, which is really amazing.
And we do this interview in 12 months' time. Where would you like the business to be?
To be regarded as the bank in Australia, where payments businesses and fintechs and banks go to get access to payment schemes.
That's exceptional. Now, on a personal level, you travel a lot. Some travel tips.
Was this a loaded question, by the way? So my travel tips are: I only travel with carry-on.
How do you do it? You just because I've got a CPAP machine, and that takes up my whole carry-on.
Yeah.
Pretty much, so I have to almost check my luggage. Without it, maybe I could get a miniature CPAP, but it stops me from snoring. But I need my CPAP. But how do you jam it all in? You just you only just have one suit or something.
I pack
You're very well dressed for a fintech conference, by the way.
Yeah, thank you.
There's a lot of t-shirts flying around.
I know, and it's like maybe it's the banker in me. I've got to wear a shirt. So
you carry on. So that
carry
way
on.
you go to the lounge and stuff. You don't, you can go straight through there sometimes.
And this is why I do it.
Yeah.
So I was in London about 6 weeks ago, and I was away for 2 weeks. Carry on, right? And so of course you stay in a hotel, and you just you use a laundry and so on. But when I last came back from London, I landed at Sydney, I think at 5:30 in the morning, came straight through customs and immigration, and at 5:45 I was in an Uber from Sydney Airport going home. And because the impatient side of me is like, I don't like waiting. Yeah. So I go straight through. Much to the annoyance of my wife, who really, every time I'm packing to go overseas, she always has a word with me. It's like, why do you do that? I'm like, just
there's a reward at the end.
Yeah, that's right.
Literally at the end of the trip. And then from a point of view of taking your laptop out, you would have done that a few times.
Yeah. There's been a few occasions where I've done that.
The
long haul flight to London, and I haven't watched a movie, and I've been on my laptop. But it's actually, I don't mind sitting for 24 hours on a plane. You can actually just get so much done. There's no distractions, and you can crunch through a million emails. And
do you get some clear thinking as well? There's no you're a captive market. Nothing you can do. There's no schedule, right?
My other travel tip, by the way, the noise cancelling headphones. Noise. Right. I need to have the noise cancelling headphones.
Kids screaming.
Well, the way I deal with that is, I'll put earplugs in and then the noise cancelling headphones on.
You do the double.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
There's some travel tips here. Piers' travel tips. We've changed this podcast now for the Piers' travel tips.
That's right. You weren't expecting this, were you?
Well, it's been great catching up. Thank you for coming on and having a quick chat here live at Intersekt. And there's a big 50 pitches coming up at 4:30, I think. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, likewise. I'm really looking forward to that
50 minutes,
as well.
50 pitches. That'd be great. A good way to end the FinTech Festival, the week, the test match, whatever you want to call it. Great to have you chat, and we'll look forward to supporting where I can.
Thanks, Chris.